I love to tell the story of unseen things above, of Jesus and his glory, of Jesus and his love. I love to tell the story because I know 'tis true. It satisfies my longings as nothing else can do. I love to tell the story, 'twill be my theme in glory, to tell the old, old story of Jesus and his love.
When you think of Solomon, you think of wisdom and 1,000 wives. We often also think of the wealth. At the time that he lived, Solomon was probably the wealthiest man in the world. Have you ever thought what it would be like to have the kind of lifestyle that Solomon had? Think about this. If you want any fresh fruit or vegetables of any kind at any day of the year, all you have to do is to walk to the local grocery store, and you have that, don't you? Fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, whatever your heart desires, any day of the year. Not just when they're in season here, because somewhere in the world they're in season, and they'll ship them in and take them to your grocery store, and you have them. Solomon could not have that. As much money as Solomon had, he could not have a fresh orange anytime he wanted a fresh orange. You can. Are you grateful for that fresh fruit and the fresh vegetables that you have? Have you ever thanked God for the fresh fruit and the fresh vegetables? If you want in a hot summer day to have a cold drink, cold beverage of some sort, or you want to have some ice cream, Solomon could not have that cold drink or ice cream. You can have it basically any time you want it. Are you grateful for having that available to you all the time? And do you give thanks for that? Think about the environment in which you live, the house in which you live, the climate-controlled house, where the temperature is at whatever level you want to sit in. Now, you may fight with one another inside the house, but you can have that temperature wherever you want it, and the humidity is controlled. It's a climate-controlled house. And you can go to a church and worship in a climate-controlled church. Solomon could not have that. If it was 100 degrees outside, then likely it was close to 100 degrees inside. Solomon, richest man in the world, didn't have it. Are you grateful? Are you thankful? Do you give thanks? If you want to watch a sporting event, if you want to watch 4 football games in one day from 4 different cities all across the country, you pull up your flat screen TV and you sit there in the comfort of your climate-controlled home and you watch them. Solomon couldn't do that. If you want to talk to someone who's 1,000 miles away, we all have family, probably everybody in here has some family member more than 1,000 miles away. You want to talk to them? It's no big deal. You can email or you can text, or you can instant message them, or you can even Skype them. I mean, you can see them and talk to one another face to face over a computer. Solomon certainly couldn't do that. If his Egyptian wife, daughter of the Pharaoh, wanted to talk to her mother down in Cairo, then give the message to a messenger, let him take that many days to get down there and then bring the message back. Many days for just a simple communication back and forth. Are you grateful for that? Do you give thanks for that? Cotton Mather, Puritan preacher from long, long ago in the United States, made a statement, something like this. Religion produces prosperity, and prosperity destroys religion. With our faith, we are blessed, but God blesses us in many ways, doesn't he? I mean, he pours out his blessings upon us when we're close to him. And so that's the kind of prosperity he's talking about, that as God blesses us. But as those blessings come, sometimes we tend to forget him more and more and more, and we tend to think that, we have done this, we deserve this, and we forget him. And so the prosperity that is produced turns around and consumes the religion. Happens to lots of people. A few questions to begin. Why do so many people, or you may just why do people in general, prefer to get their gifts in cash? We don't talk about that very much, but it is a fact, isn't it? There are many, many people who like to get the gifts. Now, you may also be one of those, and I'm not going to ask you about that. But why is it that people prefer to get gifts in cash?
Get what they want.
Get what they want. It's kind of self-centered, isn't it?
You don't have to exchange because it doesn't fit.
Because I can get what I want. It's like the little cartoon there with a little girl saying to her mother, I know you want to give me all those things that you didn't have when you were a little girl, but I'd rather have the things that I want. Well, that's how we are, isn't it? And that's why, rather than that sweater that I don't know if I'll ever wear it, I'd rather have cash. It tells us something about who we've become when we start just shifting cash back and forth for gifts. What keeps people from praising God for the blessings He gives? Because when we think about it, and we're all guilty of this, as the little story at the beginning kind of points out, we don't give Him thanks for all those things, all those blessings that He continues to pour out day by day by day by day. Why is that?
We forget who gives it to us.
We forget. We start to think that maybe we've done it ourselves, or He just is left out of the picture. What else? That's right. We've had this for so long that it keeps coming and keeps coming, so we take it for granted. It's dangerous territory, though, isn't it? What about entitlements? I'm going to come back to this topic at another time, because this is a big one. But just for entitlements, simple question, why aren't people thankful for entitlements?
They're entitled.
Because they're entitled. I mean, the name says it all, doesn't it? If it's an entitlement, then I'm entitled to it. I deserve it, don't I? Why should I be thankful for something that I deserve? If I deserve it, then you owe it to me and you need to give it to me. I mean, isn't that what we all expect of an entitlement? If it's something to which we feel we are entitled, then we deserve it, it's owed to us, and there's no reason to give thanks for it. That is dangerous territory. Because we tend to start taking a lot of things for granted, feeling that we deserve a lot of things just because they are coming fairly regularly even. This is an interesting question. I don't know if you've ever thought about this. How do we determine what we deserve? Have you ever thought, I deserve this or I deserve that? Certainly you have. You don't have to answer the question because I know you have. We have all thought about things that we deserve. How do we determine what it is we deserve?
What we want.
What we want. That's more likely, isn't it? That's easier. We can explain that one away. But what about deserve? How can we say to ourselves, I deserve this? We do. You do. I do.
It's hard to do.
Yeah, I worked to get that. I earned it. Therefore, I deserve it. It's owed to me. How do people react when they receive more than they think that they deserve?
I really do deserve that much.
I really did deserve it. Yeah, for most of us, there are really two classes of people at least, I think. One is the larger group that you've just described, and that's most of us will find ourselves in that group. If we go to interview for a $50,000 a year job and it turns out we get the job and they give us $150,000 a year. Well, we just underestimated ourselves in the beginning. We really are worth $150,000, aren't we? We do deserve it. We just misunderstood early on, and now we understand better, and so this is what we deserve. But there is another group of people for whom this is a worrisome event. You've ever met people who really didn't feel that they deserved much of anything? And so if somebody gives them something, then I don't deserve it, and I can't take it because I don't deserve it. I mean, this is a frightening circumstance for some people. And there are some of those. Most of us aren't like that. Most of us are like the first group that Harry suggested. If it's something greater than we expected, then we'll just raise our expectations. But there are people who are going to have a great deal of trouble in receiving something when they have such a low estimation of themselves that they don't feel that they can take it. But what about the other way around? What happens when we receive less than what we think that we deserve?
They're being cheated.
We're being cheated, yes. So what are we going to do about it?
We're going to demonstrate.
Demonstrate. That's one approach. What else might we do? Steal it. Take it. If you deserve it, they're not giving it to you, then go get it. Is that an attitude that exists? When you look at it, we see it easily in other people, but we have an inclination like that all of our own. Because if we think that we deserve something, and it's owed to us, and it's not been given to us, and so somehow we're going to have to do something to make sure that we get what we deserve. Now, there's a little bit of that in everybody, because that's human nature. And so there is that inclination to get out there and take it away.
Your attitude can destroy the relationship.
That whole attitude about what you think you deserve can mean a lot. But that's why it's important to go back to that earlier question. How do you determine what it is that you deserve? I mean, how does a person determine in their minds what it is they deserve? Is there a relationship? Do you see any relationship, any correlation between unhappiness and ingratitude? So whether you're talking about unhappiness and ingratitude or happiness and gratitude, they seem to go hand in hand, don't they? Because if we are unhappy about what we're getting and how things are going, then we're not going to be very thankful for what's going on, because that's not the way it's supposed to be.
Which comes first?
I don't think it really matters. Fall into this one and that will follow. Fall into that and this will follow. They kind of work together.
In this country, we've had so much for so long, it's so easy to fall into that trap.
I go back to the Cotton Mather statement earlier about religion produces prosperity and prosperity destroys religion. Because when things are going very, very well for a long, long time, and this is a situation that I think all of us face. I mean, we've had things go very, very well for us for a very, very long time. We have little incidents here and there. We have some hard times, tough stretches. But overall, our lives compared to the rest of the world have been very, very good. Good things for a long time. The expectations are there, so when things start to get a little rough, then the unhappiness comes, the ingratitude, the unthankfulness, and spiral downhill. The film I have for you this morning is The Family That Prays. That's P-R-E-Y-S, not P-R-A-Y-S. And this is about people who actually prey on one another, as people do. I mean, this is not a unique situation. It happens in your lives, in my life. It happens all the time. People prey upon one another. Now, this is a Tyler Perry movie. Tyler Perry is a Christian. Tyler Perry is involved in gospel music, TV, movies, all kinds of things. The movies that he produces, now he's a Christian, he produces movies that are not Christian movies, but they're movies that almost always have a Christian in there. He treats Christians with respect. He doesn't treat them the way most Hollywood movies treat Christians in mocking them and making fun of them, but they're also human. I mean, these are people who are like us. They do many things right, and they try to do things right, but they're going to stumble. They make mistakes. Let me tell you a little bit about it. First of all, Charlotte is a woman, very wealthy woman. This is her home behind you. You'll see it in the movie. And she's throwing a wedding for Andrea, this young lady over here, who happens to be the daughter of Alice, Charlotte's best friend. Now, Alice does not appear to have any money. She runs a diner and seems to be just getting by. So Charlotte, out of respect for her friend, throws the wedding at her house for Andrea and pays for the whole thing. Alice is the staunch Christian in this film, and her behavior is exemplary in most respects. But there's one line in the film where Alice stumbles, and if you watch the film, try to find that line. All right, let's see what happens.
Oh, no, dear. That whole arrangement needs to go back there, between the windows.
Yes, ma'am.
Alice, you put that down.
Oh, Charlotte,
Everything's so beautiful. This is your daughter's wedding day. I want you to enjoy yourself. How's it going in there?
She getting dressed.
Well, then you need to go on in and check on her.
Well, I just want to make sure everything is all right out here.
Everything is all right. You need to go on. Come on.
Okay.
Everything's gonna be fine. You just relax.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna relax today. Oh.
But there's my son and his dreadful wife.
Be nice.
William.
Hello, Mother. Miss Alice.
Hey, William. Jillian, you are wearing that hat.
Mrs. Cartwright. Alice, that is a lovely dress. Turn around.
Oh, now don't you stop her. She's on her way in to see her daughter.
I am. You look pretty.
Thank you.
Well, this is all very, oddly nice of you, Mother.
Yes, well, if my only son hadn't eloped, then maybe I would have been able to give him the proper wedding that mothers dream of.
Yard sure looks lovely.
Oh, do I look okay?
Andrea, you look beautiful. Would you stop it?
I don't like this dress.
This is the dress Mama married Daddy in.
So? Doesn't mean I gotta like it. She should have gotten that old woman to buy me one.
She paid for the wedding, Andrea. What more do you want?
Yeah, she paid for a beautiful wedding for her black friend's daughter so she could tell all her friends how she helped out the poor colored women and her children.
Stop it. And don't you embarrass Mama today. You are a piece of work. Ugh.
Hi, girls.
Mama.
You're excited?
Yes. Andrea was just saying how nice this is of Mrs. Cartwright and how much she loves this dress.
Oh, good. Good. Look at you. You look beautiful. My baby. Thank you, Jesus. Oh. Okay, pretty girls, let's go get married. I'm gonna check on the cake topper.
Yeah, make sure little Mavis got her rose petals, sweetie.
Yes, ma'am.
Baby, you gotta see this. Hey, what's the matter?
Andrea, she's driving me crazy. She is just the most ungrateful person I know.
See, it's easy to recognize ingratitude on the part of somebody else, and it's even easier if that somebody else is different from you in some way. But it's a lot harder to recognize it within yourself. So let's look at our story this morning, which is the 9 ungrateful lepers. And we normally remember the story as the 10 lepers that Jesus healed, but we're going to focus on the 9 ungrateful ones. The story deals with lepers. Leprosy is an ugly disease. Most diseases are ugly. I mean, if you look at somebody who's had an accident of some sort or an illness of some sort, I mean, it's very unpleasant, isn't it? You don't like to look upon all that. But in fact, with lepers, it's really difficult because they might lose their ears and their nose, and their face can be grossly disfigured. Fingers fall off, toes fall off. I mean, extremities just rot away. So it's an ugly, ugly disease, and progressive, and just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. But here's a man whose fingers are all gone from leprosy. In Leviticus, leprosy is described to us and how the people should deal with it. I mean, it was a fairly common disease back in those days, considered to be incurable. The leper was required to wear torn clothes, to wear his hair long, cover his mouth, to shout unclean. So if anybody's coming, they had to let them know that, you don't want to be around me. So they had to shout, declare with their own lips their problem, I'm unclean. So you always knew, or you were supposed to know, if you were coming near a leper, that the leper would be shouting, unclean, unclean. And then, to make matters worse, he shall live alone outside the camp. In Leviticus, this is Moses giving God's message to the people as they're marching in the wilderness. When they come into the land, it's not the camp anymore, but it's in the cities. So they're not allowed in the cities. They have to reside outside the city walls by themselves. Imagine for a moment, you're married and you have some children. You contract leprosy. You are now forbidden from having any contact with your spouse and your children. I want you to think about that and consider that as we go into this story, because of these 10 men, it's almost certain that several of them were in this condition, married, children, separated from their families. No contact, except from a distance. Now that's an ugly disease. But this is their situation. So leprosy is the most horrible disease that you could imagine back at that time. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is Samaritans, because we're going to be dealing with a Samaritan leper, and so we need to refresh our memories about the Samaritans. This is the map of Israel at the time of Jesus. So you have Judea down here around Jerusalem and below, Samaria sitting up here right above it, and Galilee sitting above that near the Sea of Galilee. Dead Sea is here. The Assyrians were up to the northeast above Syria. And in the 8th century BC, the Assyrians came down and defeated the northern kingdom of Israel, which is this area of Samaria and Galilee. The Assyrians came down here and defeated Israel, took the really qualified people of Israel into captivity, and replaced them with other people. The king of Assyria brought people from cities around in his territory and moved them down into this area to be in control. So the Israelites who had been left behind would basically be reporting to them. These people transplanted in were in charge. So they come in and they settle in the cities, and over the years, these people intermarry. The Israelites who are left behind and these people that the king of Assyria sent into the land intermarry, and they become the Samaritans. This area of Samaria at the time of Jesus is populated by these Samaritans, this mixture of people from Israel and Assyria. So the king brought them in. Now, the other problem that we have here is that these people who came in brought their own gods, and as they intermarried, what happened was exactly what God warned the people about before they came into the land. If you intermarry with these people, then you're going to mix their religion with our religion, and it's going to be a bad, bad situation. So that's what happened. To this day, they did not fear God. At the time of Jesus, that the people of Samaria and the people of Judea don't really like one another. The people down here still view their religion as the pure religion. They're faithful to God. But these people weren't even close. So we're better than they are, and so we don't want anything to do with them. So you have this issue of the Samaritans. This is why the people in Judea at the time of Jesus and even the people in Galilee up above feel the same way about those people in the heart of Samaria. Those people are no good. We don't like them. We'll have nothing to do with them. Our story begins in Luke 17. On the way to Jerusalem, it's helpful to understand that at this particular time, Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem for that last week. He's going to Jerusalem to be crucified. So this is a critical time, and he's on his way to Jerusalem. And as he's doing so, he's passing along between Samaria and Galilee. Now, it's not uncommon for people from Galilee, when going down to Jerusalem to worship, to go around Samaria. You don't want to walk through and be contaminated by all those people, so you go around. It's a little longer, but you walk down on the other side of the Jordan River so that you don't have to walk through Samaria. But Jesus is passing along between Samaria and Galilee. And as he entered a village, he was met by 10 lepers who stood at a distance, because they're required by law to stand at a distance. So they stand at a distance and they shout at him, which is all they can do. But notice what they shout. They say, "Jesus," so they know who he is. Now, this is, again, 3 years into the ministry, so a lot of people do know who he is. But these people know who he is. These lepers know that this is Jesus, and so they shout his name. Then they shout, "Master." If you call someone master, then you are submitting to them, aren't you? You are submitting yourself to that person. They're shouting, "Jesus, Master." So there is an element of submission associated with this expression. Then, "Have mercy on us." Now, what would you be inclined to say if you knew that Jesus was walking by and you had leprosy? What would be the words most likely to come out of your mouth? Cure me, heal my leprosy. Get rid of this. When we have an illness, a disease, or something like that, and we have a problem, and we go to prayer, how is it that we express it? God, get rid of this. Get this off my back. That's what we do. That's not what they say. They say, Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. What does that mean? But they're asking for compassion of some sort, aren't they? What form that takes, he's the master, that's for him to decide. Do you tell your master what to do? Well, we do when we pray many times, don't we? Here's the problem, God, and here's the solution. Go for it. That's how we're inclined to go. But have mercy on us. Have compassion on us. Just have mercy. Don't give us what we deserve. I mean, isn't that what mercy is? To not give us what we deserve? If you throw yourself on the mercy of the court, you're asking the court not to give you what you deserve. Have mercy on us. Don't give us what we deserve, but just have compassion on us for our situation. Whatever that is, you're the master. Not the way that most of us would express our concern when we see Jesus coming by. When he saw them, but he says to them, go. He doesn't touch them. Doesn't say you're healed. He just says, go, show yourselves to the priests. What we didn't say when we were looking at Leviticus was that the priests are the ones who determined what was clean and unclean, and if a person was leprous or not leprous. Or if a person had leprosy, the priest was going to tell him he had leprosy, and he must separate himself from the group. And if he was to be cured of leprosy, it was going to be the priest who told him that he was cured, and he could go back to the group. Jesus says, go, show yourselves to the priest. You're a leper, been separated from your family now for quite a while. You see Jesus, you make this unusual statement, Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. And he says, go show yourselves to the priest. Now, what would you be inclined to do? So wait a minute, something's not right here. I don't understand this. Would you explain a little more clearly to me what it is you want to happen here and why? Aren't we like that? But I think most of us are. The instructions were not clear enough for me. And tell me a little bit more. Help me understand. See, I have to understand everything, right? Help me to understand. He says, go show yourselves to the priest. That's it. As they went. They apparently did not ask the questions, but they went. He said, go, they went. Well, that's what we should do also. We don't like to do it quite that way. As they went, then they were cleansed. That seems to imply, by these words, that somewhere along the line, from the time that they turned their backs and started to walk away, until the time that they actually arrived at the priest. Now, whether it was at the beginning or at the end or in the middle, where it was in there, I don't know. But as they went, but somewhere along the line, they recognized that they had been healed of their leprosy. Now, Calvin argues that it probably happened when they got to the priest, because Jesus had ordered them to go to the priest, and to turn back before getting to the priest would be to not obey. Somewhere along there, they recognized that they had been cleansed. They had been healed. Then one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, praising God with a loud voice. Now, let's focus on this. When he saw this, he turned back, and what we're going to see is the other 9 kept going. What would you have done? If you had been separated from your family, your spouse, and your children for years because of this disease, and you're walking along now and you realize that you've been healed of that disease and it's gone, what would have been the first thing that you would have wanted to do? Almost certainly you would have thought of your family and wanting to hug your spouse and to hug your children that you've not been able to touch for years. So I think before we get too critical of the 9 for walking away and continuing on too fast, we need to put ourselves in their sandals just for a little while. But the one who got it right turned back praising God with a loud voice, gave thanks, saw that he was healed, turned back, not quietly, but shouting again, praising with a loud voice, praising God for what he had done. And he fell on his face at Jesus' feet, giving him thanks, giving him thanks. Thankful for what had taken place. But where are the other 9? 9 didn't come back 9 did not give thanks. Was there no one found to return and give praise to God? And then he adds, except this foreigner, this Samaritan, the hated Samaritan. And he said to him, rise and go your way, your faith has made you well. American Standard and the King James will use made you whole, which is a wellness beyond physical wellness. It's a spiritual wellness as well. But your faith has made you well. Now that raises an interesting question. What about the 9? How did they get healed? Did they have faith? Were they made well? Were they made whole? Or did their ingratitude, not being grateful enough to God to turn around and thank Him for this wonderful, amazing thing that He had done for them? They did not return to Jesus. They did not thank Him for what He had done. I'm going to do 2 passages and then I'm going to summarize it for you. Steve used the phrase Wednesday night, an attitude of gratitude. Remember, Steve said you should have an attitude of gratitude. I have an attitude of ingratitude in Romans chapter 1. In Romans chapter 1, Paul's talking about, first of all, he says the righteous are saved by faith. And then he talks about the unrighteous, about the wrath of God coming down on the unrighteous. Well, who are these unrighteous? Although they knew God, they did not honor Him as God or give thanks to Him. These unrighteous don't give thanks to God because they deserve it. They deserve it. Those are the unrighteous. And that's an attitude of ingratitude. They're not grateful. You can't turn around and say thank you, then you're not grateful. Then the attitude of gratitude from one of my favorite passages in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. Rejoice always, pray continuously, pray without ceasing. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Rejoice always, pray continuously, give thanks in all circumstances. Good circumstances, bad circumstances, we can give thanks to Him for who He is, the fact that He is in control, and we trust Him. So we can give thanks to Him in all circumstances. And that is God's will for us, that we will be able to give thanks to Him in all circumstances. This rock, anybody recognize that? I mean, it's the largest boulder in North America. It's in New Hampshire. It's about 23 feet tall above ground and about 10 feet below ground, more than 80 feet long. Is your faith like that? Can you move that rock? That rock is probably going to stay there for a while. Nobody's going to move that thing. Immovable, solid. Is your faith like that, or is it like this? Easily moved, right? I mean, if a kid throws it in a stream and the stream flows fast enough, it gets pushed downstream. Easily pushed around. See, our faith is solid when we see and are grateful for what God is doing. If we can see God working in all circumstances, and if we can appreciate what He is doing in all circumstances, we may not understand it, but we can see that He's working, we can appreciate He's working, and we're grateful for what He's doing. If we can be grateful, thankful in all circumstances, then that faith is like this rock. If we're not grateful, if we don't appreciate, then it's like this or smaller. If we talk about our hope, because not just about right now, but what's coming, put a rock on top of that rock, a big rock. That's a big rock too. Your hope is like that. Your hope also can be solid or it can be flimsy and blows away. Ever heard of people having their hopes dashed? They had their hope here and now all of a sudden, oh, my hope is gone. It's hopeless. But if our hope is on a huge rock of faith, if our hope is built on that, then it is also solid. And that hope is our confident expectation that God is faithful to His promises. He will keep His promises to us. And if our faith is strong, if our faith is solid, then our hope is going to be strong as well and will not be shaken by the circumstances. Because in those circumstances, we will trust Him, knowing that He is in control. And we will give Him thanks in all circumstances.
I love to tell the story, 'twill be my theme in glory, to tell the old, old story of Jesus and his love.